If you've been feeling unmotivated, anxious, and unsure about purchasing a home in today's market, I want you to know you're not alone. Between what we're seeing on the news, what we're hearing on social media, and just the overall uncertainty of the market, especially with the tariffs and the federal government, it's easy to feel stuck. Maybe you're wondering, is now even a good time to buy? Should I wait? Am I actually ready for this? In this video, I'm gonna break it down in a real, honest way. I'll share the benefits of buying a home right now, what you need to keep in mind and look out for, and why getting started, even if it's just a conversation, might be the best move that you make this year. Let's be real, buying a home is a big deal. And when you add in everything that you're hearing, interest rates are too high, the market is gonna crash, you should wait, homes are too expensive, you should wait. It can feel like now this just isn't the right time. I get it, the fear is real and it's valid. But a mentor told me this a long time ago. Fear thrives in confusion. The more noise you hear, the harder it is to make a confident decision. And that's where most people get stuck. It's not because they're not ready, it's because they don't have clear information. I've talked to so many people who feel this way. They want to buy a home, they know it's a smart move, but the fear of making a mistake is keeping them standing still. The truth is, you don't have to have it all figured out today. You just need to take the first step towards clarity. And that's what this video and this process is really about.
It is a big decision to buy a home, taking on this huge debt. It's just, what do you do about that? Because doing nothing, there's still a risk in that. People think that there's no risk, but there is. So you either do nothing and stay in the same position or go backwards, or you do something about it and slowly, incrementally go into a better direction. Yeah. And so you are going to be scared in either way. You might as well go into a better place.
It's okay to be scared. Most things that are worth doing, starting a business, getting married, having a baby, making a career shift, buying a home, they all come with some level of fear, especially when it's your first time. But being scared and being uneducated is not the same thing. We're gonna go through this process with a healthy amount of fear that's gonna help us make smart decisions and question certain things and be inquisitive in certain areas, but we're not gonna be uneducated. We're gonna do our homework, we're gonna get the necessary information we need per the step that we're in, and we're gonna move forward. You can be scared and still take the first step, because honestly, the fear doesn't actually go away until you've gone through the process, until it's actually a lived experience for you, and you can kind of step back and say, that wasn't so bad. Or that one thing that I was afraid of, that I created a worst case scenario for, it actually didn't even come up. The problem is, while you're waiting for the fear to disappear, you're also missing out, right? You're missing out on appreciation, you're missing out on equity, you're missing out on the tax advantages that's gonna help you build wealth for yourself and your family. I actually had a client who just closed a couple weeks ago, and she reached out to me 3 years ago. But just like many people, life gets in the way. She was nervous about the process, and on top of that, she was comfortable renting where she was at. She started the process when interest rates were really low, and then she felt like she missed that window, so she kept putting it off and putting it off. But eventually, the pain of watching others build wealth while she was sitting on the sidelines was too much for her, and she finally decided to get back in the game, and now she's a homeowner. She got educated, we built a plan, and we executed on that plan, and before long, she's gonna be ready to purchase that second home. Because here's the truth, the longer you wait to buy your first home, the longer it's gonna take to buy the second one. Because once you buy that first property, everything changes. That second one is gonna feel so much easier because you've already done it. You've seen the paperwork, you know the process, but most importantly, you've already proven to yourself that you can do it. So don't let fear keep you stuck. Take the first step, and you'll be thanking yourself later.
Even today, in the year 2024, 2025 approaching, you're a proponent of home ownership?
Absolutely. Come on, man. Look, all these people on TV talking about you shouldn't own a home. Poor people shouldn't own. These fools own a home. I know these people. They're on the network where I'm a contributor on CNBC. And I said, you should be ashamed of yourself. You just told somebody to not do what you've done.
Right.
That's
hypocritical, yeah.
They own 1, 2, 3, 4 homes. Every millionaire has real estate in their portfolio. Let me tell you this, 3 things have not gone down in American history, Stephen. GDP, gross domestic product in this country. Stock market value, and now you're about to stop me because wait, there's the Great Depression, but hold on a minute. And real estate value. Now you should stop me again and say, well, hold on, John, you're selling wolf tickets because you had the 2008 crisis. Okay, hold on. It goes up, there's a recession, which means it recedes, right?
Comes back up.
And that's why you're so smart. Corrects above the line. So buy it, hold it, don't sell. Real estate has always, on balance.
Okay, so if you're still watching this video, you understand you have two options. You can buy a home now in today's market, or you can wait. There's no right or wrong answer. So let's get into both options and what that means for you. Every mortgage payment brings you one step closer to owning your home outright. Let's say you buy a $400,000 home with 3% down. In your first year alone, just by making mortgage payments and getting average appreciation, you can have anywhere between $8,000 to $12,000 in equity. Equity is the difference between what you own and what's left on the mortgage. Now, I'll be honest, equity doesn't really matter in the short term, right? So that 8 to 12,000, that's gonna be a leg up that you have, right? Because it's gonna build and compound on itself, but it's really not much you can do with it, especially in year one, right? We're talking maybe 4 or 5 years down the line when you start to build a significant amount of equity. Now that's something that you can play with refinancing, doing a cash out refi, or taking out a HELOC, meaning that you're borrowing the money that you have into equity. Or if you have enough equity, sell the property. You sell the property, now you have this lump sum of cash that you can put maybe a down payment on a bigger home or a home in a nicer area, right? And so these are the things that you can do where if you were renting, once your lease is up, the only check that you might get back is your security deposit. So what's that, $1,500? I mean, when you take payment aside, even if your mortgage payment was higher than what you're paying in rent, at the end of 5 or 10 years, when you're done renting and you're moving on to another spot, or maybe now you decide to purchase, you get nothing. If you were to sell at the end of 5 or 10 years, at least you know you have some equity based on appreciation and your principal paydown. One of the biggest and underrated benefits to home ownership is locking in your housing costs. And so when I mentioned 30-year fixed loan, that means that your principal and interest, that payment is going to stay the same for 30 years. Now, again, you do have to pay taxes, and that will likely go up over time. And you do have to pay insurance, and that can also go up over time. However, it's not gonna go up at the same rate as your rent would. And so if we look at what people were paying in rent, let's say 10 years ago, 2015, it's significantly different than what people are paying now. And again, I've rented before. That's just what we do. We rent housing. And so even though that I paid on time every month, on the first of the month, my landlord got her rent. But what happens every single year? Increase the rent. Hey, thanks for being a great tenant. 3% rent increase, 5% rent increase. God forbid you live in an apartment complex, because I mean they're ruthless, right? They don't care. They're gonna hike it up. It's part of their business model, right? I think that's what, if you kind of understand how property management companies and apartment buildings, like how they work, like it's part of their business model. Like they factor in, before they even buy a building, they factor in yearly rent increases. And so knowing that, it's sort of like a no-brainer that to say, okay, yes, maybe $2,500 is too much for a mortgage today. 10 years from now, that's gonna look like a discount. One of the pet peeves I have is when real estate professionals, or just people in general, right? You know, there's people out there who purchase homes and they like to give blanket advice. I don't like to give blanket advice, especially when it comes to negotiating, because every single market is different. Even here in the Washington, D.C. metro area, the advice that I would give somebody who's looking to buy in Northern Virginia is gonna be different than the advice that I give somebody who may be purchasing in Waldorf, or purchasing in Prince George's County, or purchasing in Washington, D.C. Real estate is so hyper local, it actually frustrates me a little bit when people just say, oh yeah, get your closing costs paid. There are some markets still, the competition is so high where sellers don't have to cover your closing costs, because there's gonna be another offer that comes in that's gonna say, hey, we don't want our closing costs covered. We'll go 10K up or 20K up above what you're asking. We actually don't need closing help. What I would say is, because of where interest rates are, I mean, they go up and down, but what I am noticing is that in a lot of markets, things are softening up, which means properties are staying on the market a little longer. This is blanket advice I can give. If the property's been on the market for an excessive period of time, you can ask for some type of concession, and maybe that's a discount on the price, or maybe that's getting your closing costs covered. Generally, there is more negotiating power right now than what we've seen in the past, even though in certain markets, inventory is still low. And so if you're buying in a market or a neighborhood where there's a lot of inventory, that means you have more negotiating power as a buyer. So take advantage of that if you can. When we talk about home ownership, it's not just about you, right? It is about you. You're paying for it, you're gonna be living in it, but it's really about generational wealth, the people that are gonna come after you and who's gonna be benefiting off the fact that you made the decision to become a homeowner. And so in other communities where the home ownership rate is 60% or 70%, and then you look at the Black community and our home ownership rate is 40%, I think maybe even below 40%, it is disheartening, because while I do know that there are factors outside of our control, there are also people out there and influencers out there who are discouraging people from being homeowners. The question is never whether you should buy a home or rent forever, right? It's always gonna be buy a home. Real estate is an asset that's gonna appreciate over time, which means that if you purchase a $400,000 home today, and that home appreciates 3% annually, in 5 years, that home is gonna be worth $463,000. If we're talking about people who can't afford a home without a down payment assistance or without some of the programs that are being offered, we're talking about people who don't have assets. If, like, a lot of people who are buying their first home, they don't have any other type of asset. And so why you would turn down the opportunity to finally own an asset is beyond me.
They tryna at me, I'm running the race. I gotta pick up the pace. They throwing shade, but I'm gone. You gotta keep it a buck to my face.